Hey folks, how's it going? It is May 22nd, 2019. It is Wednesday, hump day. What day is it? Hump day. I swear that camel has made a lot of people laugh, and me included. Anyway, so I just wanted to again talk a little bit about the power of now. And that is my cat that you're seeing right there, one of them. That is Two Spot. Hey baby. Anyway, he's a cool cat. But I just wanted to get into a little bit of my personal life and why the power of now is so important to me and so life-changing, and why I continue to try to help folks understand the methods and the ways to the power of now, which is inside of all of us and which is who we are naturally. So I'm going to start it like I started a paper I had to do in college that I, of course had to read in front of people. So here we go. I'm not reading the paper. I'm just telling you a little bit of the intro. So do you know anybody that's had 12 surgeries, been hospitalized 13 times, all for 5 days or more at a time, almost died twice, beat cancer, all while raising 3 small children? Well, if you don't, you do now. Ba, ba, ba. Yep, that's just some of the medical things I've gone through to hell and back. And I'm going to briefly explain a little bit of it, because the power of now tells us really that when you've had enough suffering, your soul kind of wakes up. It's like there's got to be more to life than this. And had I known then what I know now, I never would have gone through any of this, ever, that I had to go through. So it started back, way back in the day. I was 35 years old, and I am older than a lot of you folks out here that I talk to and that I know and that I watch. But again, to me, age is just a number, so whatever. But anyway, if you knew any, okay, so where do I start? I'm not going to get into everything because, again, I've said before, I wrote a book that I will never publish, but the title kind of says it all. And the title of the book is From Riches to Rags to Reality, which was my life and is, but, it's a lot better now. Anyway, but it's after my getting divorce papers is when basically all of this happened, okay? I'd known my ex since 3rd grade. In fact, in 3rd grade, when he was going home one time with his mom, he pointed me out and said, "Mom, that's the lady, or that's a girl I'm going to marry." How bizarre is that, eh? In 3rd grade. And we did end up getting married. So I've known him since 3rd grade, and he was always a great friend. Long story short, yep, got married at 20, too young, but back then it was kind of normal. Stupid, I was stupid, I knew nothing, pretty sheltered. 3 brothers, the only girl. So my parents were strict and, old-fashioned, but still, I had to hold my own against my 3 brothers, so I wasn't sheltered as being a girl, do you know what I mean? But just didn't know what life was about at all, really. So with that being said, and a whole lot in between all of this, got divorce papers from my ex. Let's see, where do I start? Okay. He had started working out of town, which was great. He finally had a really good job. I had 3 kids that were young, and he started working out of town, which allowed me to quit my waitress job, which is the only way I could make money back then and not have to pay a sitter. So I was able to finally quit my job, and he was making really good money, or a whole lot better money than we ever knew. So everything was fine, okay, it was going well. And then he did they asked him to work out of town, which was going to be a long-term job, upstate, way upstate. And it was cool. He agreed, I agreed, it was wonderful. I was so excited because actually I did try to leave him 3 different times. because he is an extremely, extremely emotionally abusive drunk, and it was just hard. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to get into all that. But, he would go to work every day, so again, there was that. But he was truly not much of a father, nor has he ever been. With all that being said, I was so happy when he went to work out of town, because I never realized how happy I could be without him around, without the pressure of him, without his negativity and all of that. My spirit grew like I never knew it could grow. I got involved in the school systems with my kids, 3 young kids, as I said. Ended up being president of one PTA, vice president of a different PTA. At one point in time, my kids were all in 3 different schools, all in the same city. And I enjoyed every bit of it. I made friends like crazy, and wonderful, wonderful little community that I worked in, or that I lived in, and the people were great, and we all had a wonderful time. I helped with all the major fundraisers, Little League, band, all of it. As much as I could do, I was involved. And I, again, enjoyed every minute of it. So then we'd been not getting along for a while, and he would call once in a while, and it was really nice because I was able to pick up the checks and send him money, so it was fine. It was all cool, it was still, oh, I love you, whatever. And then we just started getting really, really bad. It was really bad. And, I got a little bolder because he wasn't there in front of me, and I could say things to him, just like, well, sure, I don't like you either, you make me mad too, and whatever. And it got down to the point where he's like, well, I should just divorce you. I'm like, hey, go right ahead, fine with me. And that was pretty much the last time I'd heard from him. A few weeks later, this guy walks up to my fence as I'm outside with an envelope in his hand, and he passes it to me. I'm like, oh, okay, what's this all about? And he's like, oh, and I look at it and I see who it's from, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, the guy looked at me, he's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. It's all good. So here it is, divorce papers. And this is July. And a week before that, he had cut off the money, and money was being sent up to him. So now I was at his mercy and tried to be cool to get any money to even survive. Okay? Yeah, pretty much of an asshole. But anyway, so, I'm pretty much begging him, how am I going to survive with the kids here? This is really not fair. And so he would send me like $200 a month. 3 kids. $200 a month. Sometimes maybe $400. But because we weren't divorced, he wasn't written in or signed into anything. He had no restrictions, and he could send what the heck he wanted to. Good grief. Sorry about that. Decline that spam call. Of which I get many. I don't know if you guys get a lot of robocalls, but I sure as heck do. Anyway, so where am I? So the kids are going to be starting school. In, it's July and September, they're going back to school, and they're used to getting, a few new outfits before school, and of course all the school supplies that they ask and want that you have to provide. So I am stressing out big time, barely getting by. I had to get some assistance just for food, which was new to me, and I didn't like, but I had to. I mean, I couldn't feed my children. You know what I mean? I wasn't working then. I had no car. Okay? My kids lived closest to the school, so it wasn't far, and I had a grocery store, a couple blocks away, so I could do that. So again, I mean, I could get by. I could make things work. It wasn't easy, but, is what it is. And I never put stress on the kids. I really tried not to. I told them the truth, what was going on, and they were actually very happy because he was not much of a father to them at any point in time. None of them really have a good memory of him, which is very sad to say, but, I'm not blaming it all on him. It takes 2, and I'm sure it does, and what have you, okay? So, anyway, so, it is what it is. But I kept getting sicker, and I didn't know why, and I didn't really pay attention to it because I didn't have the time to pay attention to it. I was just trying to survive and get through and make plans and see what the heck I can do. So, time went on. Couple months go by, and I just keep getting sicker, and a couple of weeks before they started school, of course, it was the worst. I had to try to talk to them to see if I could get money to help to get supplies and get clothes or anything for them. And that was always hell and very hard to do and very emotional. So I can remember walking my youngest daughter to school. She was starting third grade. And did I have a card this time? I might have had this old piece of whatever from somebody that got me around the city. I think I did. Anyway, I'm sorry, I really can't remember. I think I did. Anyway, so, and again, I was still very involved in the schools. And in fact, the 2 years before this, after he had left, like I said, I was so involved, and it was so much fun, that I actually wrote, directed, acted in, and sang in 3 little plays that the parents put on for the kids. And we would do this at Christmas time. And it was fun. So I made up these little plays, and they were called, first one was The Rappin' Reindeer. Yeah. Rap was just coming really out and popular back then. It wasn't as the rap is today, of course, but it was fun. So, all the parents would get involved, and they had fun, making big chains, and instead of Rudolph, it was Rudy. Instead of Blitzen, it was Blitz. And instead of, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a lot of fun. So we'd end up singing some solos. And then, of course, my little stories were very cute and always had a nice lesson. The first story was Santa Cancels Christmas, because all the kids are being so greedy and just asking for this and that and this and that. And there was always a nice lesson. And again, it was only a few minutes long. It wasn't like a long play. Then some of the parents would sing solos, and I was one of them. And then we would sing as a huge group, White Christmas, to all the kids. And, of course, give out candy canes at the end, and we'd even throw some fake snow out there. The janitors, which were my friends, they loved me for that. But still, it was all fun. It was all something that brought the community together, that the kids seemed to enjoy. And because I had kids in 2 different schools at that time, we performed it in 2 different schools. So we performed from preschool up to 5th grade. And it was always a hit. I mean, the parents and the teachers, we all enjoyed it. So, with that being said, I was walking my daughter to 3rd grade when this kind of all went down. And I knew I'd been really sick. I was just barely being able to function. I had such pain in my stomach, in my gut, whatever the heck you want to call it. I really had no idea what was going on. But I walked her up, and I told the teacher, whom I was friends with, that I'm going to have so-and-so pick her up. I'm going to go to the hospital, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling that, I might have to stay. So I made arrangements for all 3 kids. They were aware of this, that I was going to go to the hospital. And I got back home, and my neighbor took me to the hospital, emergency room, and dropped me off. And I went in there, and, before I knew it, all hell was breaking loose, and people were all over me and testing me and this and that and this and that. And the, excuse me, and the doctor says, give me his number. He's got to get down here and take care of these kids. He's got to get down here and take care of these kids. I'm like, he won't come. He's way far away. He's not going to come down. And they said, he's either coming down or, we're going to take the kids away. I'm like, holy shit, this is not cool. I mean, that's how serious apparently it was. I didn't realize that. So, again, I did have arrangements for them to stay with different friends. And my son and my youngest daughter stayed together with friends. And my older daughter stayed with her best girlfriend and family that I knew and trusted and loved. Okay, so I knew they were safe and everything was fine. But they demanded that he got down there. And I didn't know it at the time, but they truly didn't think I was going to make it through the night. I had peritonitis so bad that truly they didn't think I was going to make it. I had no idea. All I knew is whatever shot they gave me finally took me out of pain, and whatever was happening was going to happen. I had no control over it. All right, long story short. Well, no, it's not going to be short. Anyway, So I wake up the next day, and I don't know if any of you are aware of what it is or anything, and perhaps you want to look it up because I don't want to go into a lot of detail. But it wasn't fun. And, I'm 35 years old at this time, okay? 35. And I wake up with a colostomy bag. A colostomy bag. Well, that was hard. That was hard. I don't like reliving this, but I do have a point to all of this when I get through this, okay? That was very hard. So I was in the hospital for 11 days and went home, and of course I had to go home with this colostomy bag. Apparently a polyp exploded in my intestines, and I lost about, 7 or 8 feet of my intestines, and ended up with this big hole, and had to have the colostomy. So, of course, news spread like wildfire around our little city, and people were wonderful. Truly. I was really, really blessed at that time. People were so kind to me and my family, me and my children. And I really didn't have any family support. Okay, I didn't. None of them liked my ex, so that put a huge burden between us at all points in time. Anyway, so I'm like, how in the world am I going to do this? I went home with, 1.5 feet of a wide open wound because the infection was so bad they couldn't close it. So I had that to deal with, plus the colostomy. And I had 2 neighbors that were nurses that, out of the graciousness of their hearts, came over, one in the morning and one in the evening every day, and helped me change the bandage. And, just to get better. Well, my faith was huge and got me through. It really did. It got me through. And the kindness of the neighbors. Every day for 2 weeks, a different lady would bring over food. And I'm talking really good food. Really good food. Breakfast, lunch, and dinners for my kids and I. Just delicious stuff. Every day for 2 weeks they did this. Very blessed. Very blessed. And every day I got stronger, and I got stronger, and I felt better, and I felt better, and I just realized, I wasn't in any more pain. The pain was gone. Of course, I'm living with a different kind of pain, but the pain was gone, and I could physically move and get things done that I had to get done. So I had my house back in shape really quickly, even living with this colostomy bag, which was hard to deal with. Really hard to deal with. You can imagine if you know what it is. And if you don't bother to look it up. Anyway. So I felt good enough that I even wrote and performed and directed the last play that I would do for the schools, because that was the last year my daughter was going to be in that school, and, getting into the other school, the kids were getting a little bit older. So that was the last one I would do, and it was fun, and there were so many people there. And it was just the kindest and greatest time, really, that I'd had. And it was a wonderful city with wonderful, wonderful people. All right, so all that's being said, I'm trying to go on with my life. Excuse me. I had couldn't really do anything because they were going to try to do the reversal of this colostomy. But I had to wait, I think it was 6 months, okay? So I made arrangements for the kids to be taken care of and all of this when I knew I was going to go back for what was called the reversal. And I wasn't looking forward to that because I knew it was going to be painful and a long time healing and what have you. So anyway, so I go through the reversal. I go back to the hospital and get through all of that. And, I'm thinking, okay, I feel good. This is good. And then, a couple weeks, then I didn't start feeling so good. I'm like, uh-oh, and of course by then I'm extremely aware of what's going on inside my body. Did I point out to you that that was my cat? I think I did, but I can't remember. Anyway, so I have the reversal. And then this was in February. A couple weeks later, I wasn't feeling good. And I kept telling the doctor, I would call and I'm like, well, I'm just really not feeling good. And mind you, I had to go home with another hole in my gut. All right, but this was a smaller one that could be covered with Band-Aids, and they were hoping would heal from the inside out. No. Hang on. That was different. All right, I'm sorry. Let me go back a bit. All right, so I go for the reversal, and I realize it doesn't feel good. So I go back in, and we're going to have another surgery because the reversal is leaking, and I've got, if you will, raw sewage going into my body. Once again, getting extremely poisoned. So, again, I come out of the hospital weeks later. Not weeks later. I think I was in for at least a week, 10 days at that time. And my kids, again, I have been disrupted and put in different homes, and friends are taking care of them and what have you. Little to no money coming in at any point in time. Well, I do have to tell you that my ex did come down that very first time. The doctor demanded that he did. So it was the first time my kids really saw him. And my daughter was pretty cool in being a detective, and I'll never forget this day. She's like, Mom, I went through a suitcase and I found this note, and it said, love you from Peggy. I'm like, oh my God. So I knew he had someone else in his life. Did I care? No. I knew that was going to be a wonderful way to just, for him to just finally get out of my life. But I just remember she was really cute. But he only came down for 3 days. Nice guy, huh? Nice guy. And then he leaves, he's got to get back to work. I mean, I do understand that, but, okay. So my kids, again, are dispersed to different houses and friends. So anyway, so this next time, they did go to my sister-in-law's while I had the surgery, and then they came back down when I got home, and everything was okay. Things were going on, like I said, but then a couple weeks later I didn't feel good. So I told him again I didn't feel good. And I went back in again for more tests and stuff like that. And I don't know if any of you have ever had to have a barium enema. Good times. Good times having the enema. Woo-hoo. Oh my God. Drinking this stuff pretty much killed me. I mean, it happened well before doing the tests and everything. I mean, I had to drink this stuff many times just so they knew what was going on and where the leak was and what was happening. So yes, I did have a leak in there. It formed a huge abscess, again, poison, and I went home with a big hole in my stomach, okay? Because it was infected and it was a drain, and they had to have it drain. And I had to pack this hole every day, and which was extremely painful. And then still live with kids, do everything you would have to do with 3 children. In between this time, after I had the reversal, within a couple weeks before this started hurting, I went and got a job. And so I was working and also dealing with the children. Well, then I hurt so much, it was hard to even stand at work. And I told them, I'm going to the hospital. And sure enough, here I am again, having emergency room and ending up with this huge abscess. And I go home and I'm trying to live with this. And I'm living with this hole in my gut. Excuse the word, but it's the only word. It wasn't in my stomach. It was in my gut. And dealing with all of that, trying to pack this every day, expense of all these materials that I would have to use all the time. My nurse friends would try to bring me home supplies. And it hurt. It was very painful. And I kept calling. And then one day, I mean, really, I could hardly eat anything because I just could hardly eat anything because it was painful. And I saw him, and actually one day what the hell, how the hell did this happen? I went and saw him, okay? And the doctor said, well, come to my office. Nobody will be there, but I'll just see what's going on because, I wasn't feeling well. It wasn't healing. It wasn't doing what it needed to do. Something was wrong. So my neighbor took me once again. Wonderful guy. Can't even believe it, but I think there's his whole family. His sister was one of my best friends and helped me so much, and his mom. was my godson. Anyway, um, so I meet him at this in his hospital in his little his private office, if you will. And I thought, this is very strange. There's no nurse or anything, and already I didn't really like this doctor. His bedside manner was like a piece of crap. So I go in there and I have this hole, all right, and he again, I don't want to gross anybody out, but this is what happened. He says, oh, well, it's healing wrong. And he just rips this hole freaking open. And I screamed so loud. I'll never forget that scream that came out of me. He just ripped it open. He goes, you have to pack this better. It's healing wrong. So he shoves all this gauze and stuff into me. I'm just crying my eyes out. It's in so much pain. He's like, okay, go home and eat. I'm like, oh my God, right? So, like I've been saying, my dad and I didn't get along too well. But, I mean, obviously he was appraised of everything that was going on. I needed his advice. He's a doctor, so, tell me what's up. So I called him. I went home and I ate a cracker, okay? Literally a cracker. And this cracker, shit, if you will, started coming out of the hole. I'm like, what the hell? What is going on? I'm thinking I'm going to die. There's poison coming out of this freaking hole in my gut, and I'm trying not to scare the kids, right? I'm always trying to save face and be strong and let them know that I'm fine. Why would I worry them if I didn't, seriously, they'd already been through enough. So I called my dad. I said, Dad, this is what's happening. This is what he did to me. I don't ever want to see him again. He's like, no, don't. You don't. Go out to the office, tomorrow and whatever, and you're not going to die. And I saw the doctor that took over his practice. They sent me to a good hospital with the head of the person that does this sort of thing at a different hospital. He agreed as well, do not go back to this quack who was so cruel. So I ended up in the hospital then, again, and the doctor determined that yes, there was a fistula that had opened up, and because of it, this was going to happen, but that risking another surgery would not be advisable at this time. He wanted to see if it would heal from, again, the inside out and be fine, okay? I would rather do that as well, because why in the hell would I want to have another surgery and be down another 6 weeks and, what have you. Once again, dealing with my young children and all that was going on in their lives, I mean, they're already getting disrupted. My son didn't play Little League that year, and that made me really sad because it was just so hard to get him there and back. And anyway, so we decide to let this stay open and see if it will heal. Every single day, I'm packing this damn thing at least twice a day, at least, and going to work. Okay, so I've got this bandage over my hole in my gut where shit's coming out, and I have to live with this every day. Try not to smell, try not to act like anything's wrong. Good times, really good times, right? Not. And again, if I knew then what I knew now, I would not have lived in such stress and such pain and such hell, because I fought it every bit of the way. I just kept fighting the now. It was hard to accept. I accepted it. I mean, I put up with it because I had no other choice. I didn't accept it as I would have now, but I did get along, okay? I had to live with it. I had it under a little bit of control where, it wasn't coming out so bad. Again, I wouldn't eat very big amounts at all, but I would at least eat. I was okay. I was trying to stay healthy and, whatever. So, okay, all this happens again, and by the time I'd agreed to having another surgery, it was getting close to Christmas, and I said, no, please, don't do it now. Let's do it after the New Year. So I made arrangements once again for my kids to go up to my sister-in-law's. And again, okay, so we're talking a year and a half since I got divorce papers. Nothing's going on. I had no money to get a lawyer. I'm dealing with all this shit, literally. And after the reversal, I was not involved in the schools anymore. I just couldn't, I didn't have the time or the energy to do all this, working and dealing with all of this. But I was told at one of the parent-teacher meetings or whatever that they'd have every month. Of course, people are always inquiring about me and asking what was going on, and they told him, and at one point in time, this gentleman was in the group, and he was a lawyer, and he said, my God, she has no representation. Well, I'm going to help her out. And he called me that night, and I was so happy. I was so happy because I didn't know what the hell to do. I had no lawyer. I was, he was just going to screw me right over. I mean, people kept saying the longer that you don't get divorced, of course, he's not obligated to send you any money. Of course, I did know that, but when your hands are tied and you're dealing with as much as I was dealing, it was kind of hard to think of everything. You know what I mean? It was just hard to get through a day, let alone think of everything else that was going on. So this wonderful man helps me, okay? A year and a half had gone by, and by the time he got involved, it was going into the second year of these, now not divorced, but in the process of it. And of course, he wouldn't go ahead with it because he knew it would cost him money. So, and then he'd have to pay alimony and child support and all that stuff. So anyway, so the lawyer helps me. I end up getting, a little bit of alimony. I probably could have gotten so much more, but again, I was just happy for whatever the hell I could get. And he was ordered to pay child support. And I was happy with that too. Finally, I got a little bit of help. All right, well, that's happening. And then this is into January, and I have my kids back at my my ex-in-laws, and they're taking care of them because she had a daughter and a son that were the same age. So, of course, they were cousins, and they were good friends. So that was always wonderful. And their grandma lived there too, not my mom, his mom. And she was a very wonderful woman as well. So, so when I finally make arrangements to go back and have this surgery, and because, he was going to have to go in, and because it never did heal, he had to go in and take care of whatever was going on. Okay, so I wake up with another bag. Oh, yeah. Yep, and this one is called an ileostomy, and that is on the other side of my stomach. Holy shit, right? Anyway, wow. He said that when he went in there was such a mess that he had no other choice but to do this. Again, I would have died. And he was surprised that I even lasted this long with the amount of pain that I was in. So I have this other bag on the other side of me that I have to deal with once again. And once again, I'm cut from stem to stern, and the infection is bad, so they have to heal it wide open. Again, not bothering my friends this time. I'm doing this all on my own because, I bothered my friends enough, even though I'm sure they wouldn't have minded. But come on, enough is enough for everybody. So I am just dealing with all of this. Okay, well, this one wouldn't take that long to heal, but I did have to wait at least 3 months. So I did that, and he went back in, and this doctor was amazing. And no wonder he was the head of the surgical department or whatever the heck he was. He was amazing, and I came out of there, with a small scar and absolutely feeling good. And I kept getting better and better and better and had no other problems. So that was that. Life went on. I got divorced. He was ordered to pay child support, which he would not always do. I was just trying to get back and have some normalcy in my life, not talking to him, not dealing with him, getting what I could get from him, going back to work, making $8.50 an hour. Yepers. working at a lovely plant store that fed my soul, which is what I needed at the time. It really did. It was a job that I had before, after the reversal, and before the abscess. And they were very kind, and they took me back as soon as I could get back, which was great. So we had a little bit of normalcy. Everything was fine. Things are going on, right? And I'm going to leave it at that part, because after all of this is when I really did get awakened. Now, those were only a couple surgeries and a few times hospitalized, and more happened after this, but I won't get into all of that, because the whole point of this was to teach you that stress will kill you if you let it. Stress will absolutely kill you if you let it. And had I known then what I know now, like I said, I never would have gone through what I went through. So let me just read a little bit of this that I hope I haven't grossed you all out. I hope you don't feel or think less of me. This is just some of the nonsense I had to go through in my life that brought me to this point of staying present and of understanding I didn't have to live like I lived in my mind, always thinking ahead, always worrying about the past, never staying present, thinking that I'm enjoying times and enjoying life, but in reality was always somewhere else. You know what I mean? I was never fully present. So this helps me every day, and you can understand just a little bit why it means so much to me now. And, you know, guys, that was really only half of it, and I won't get into all the rest now anyway, because that was a whole lot of personal nonsense I had to bring out. But suffering, yeah. Yep. I went through a lot of suffering. So, excuse me. Excuse me. I've got my two hands busy and I can't get a Kleenex. So anyway, all right, let me just read you these few pages from The Power of Now about the body. All right? Okay, and please learn a lesson from me. Stay present. Don't let the past and the future dictate what happens to you right this second, okay? Live in the now. Enjoy this moment. That's all we ever have. It's all I've ever said, right? Stay present. Stay safe. Hang on one second, please. Sorry, one sec. I gotta get a tissue. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. All right, excuse me. All right, so let me just read this. Enough of my talking, okay? Sermon on the body. You want to look at my kitty cat? How about that? That might be a little bit better. My goodness, this isn't Two Spot. This is Biggins. I'm sorry, Biggs. I didn't even realize that was you. This is Biggins, the brother of Two Spot. So, we'll look at Biggies. There he is. All right? All right. This is from the chapter 6, the inner body. Sermon on the body. What you perceive as a dense physical structure called the body, which is subject to disease, old age, and death, is not ultimately real, is not you. It is a misperception of your essential reality that is beyond birth and death, and is due to the limitations of your mind, which, having lost touch with being, creates the body as evidence of its illusionary belief in separation and to justify its state of fear. But do not turn away from the body, for within that symbol of impertinence, limitation, and death that you perceive as the illusionary creation of your mind is concealed the splendor of your essential and immortal reality. Do not turn your attention elsewhere in search for the truth, for it is nowhere else to be found but within your body. Do not fight against the body, for in doing so you are fighting against your own reality. And I'm here to tell you that's the truth. You are your body. The body that you can see and touch is only a thin illusionary veil. Underneath it lies the invisible inner body, the doorway into being, into life unmanifested. Through the inner body, you are inseparably connected to this unmanifested, one life, birthless, deathless, eternal presence. Through the inner body, you are forever one with God. Have deep roots within. The key is to be in a state of permanent connectedness with your inner body. And let me just throw this in there that I tell you, I know my body so well. Every little pain, every little movement, anything that ever goes on, I'm aware of. But I'm healthier now, I must admit, than I've ever been in my life. I am extremely healthy. Okay, so with that being said, let me go on. All right, so the key is to be in a state of permanent connectedness with your inner body, to feel it at all times. This will rapidly deepen and transform your life. The more consciousness you direct into the inner body, the higher its vibrational frequency becomes, much like a light that grows brighter as you turn up the dimmer switch, and so increase the flow of electricity. Excuse me, 1 second. I'm so sorry. 1 sec. Gosh. Oh, gosh. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Okay. Blah, blah. All right. All right, so turn up the dimmer switch and so increase the flow of electricity. At this higher energy level, negativity cannot affect you anymore, and you tend to attract new circumstances that reflect this higher frequency. If you keep your attention in the body as much as possible, you will be anchored in the now. You won't lose yourself in the external world, and you won't lose yourself in your mind. Thoughts and emotions, fears and desires may still be there to some extent, but they won't take you over. Please examine where your attention is at this moment. Well, mine's right here. You are listening to me, or you are reading these words in a book. That is the focus. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to bring you over here to the little girl. This is one spot. This is his sister. And it's easier for me to have the phone over here, so I hope that's okay. She's pretty cute, eh? All right. Okay. If you keep your attention in the body as much as possible, you will be anchored in the now. You won't lose yourself in the external world, and you won't lose yourself in your mind. Thoughts and emotions, fears and desires may still be there to some extent, but they won't take you over. Please examine where your attention is at this moment. You are listening to me, or you are reading these words in a book. That is the focus of your attention. You are also peripherally aware of your surroundings, other people, and so on. Furthermore, there may be some mind activity around you, what you are hearing or reading, or some mental commentary. Yet, there is no need for any of this to absorb all your attention. See if you can be in touch with your inner body at the same time. Keep some of your attention within. Don't let it all flow out. Feel your body from within as a single field of energy. It is almost as if you were listening or reading with your whole body. Let this be your practice in the days and weeks to come. Do not give all your attention away to the mind and the external world. By all means, focus on what you are doing, but feel the inner body at the same time whenever possible. Stay rooted within. Then observe how things change. Then observe how this changes your state of consciousness and the quality of what you are doing. Whenever you are waiting, wherever it may be, use the time to feel the inner body. In this way, traffic jams and lines become very enjoyable instead of mental projecting yourself away from the now. Go deeply into the now by going more deeply into the body. The art of inner body awareness will develop into a completely new way of living, a state of permanent connectedness with being, and will add a depth to your life that you have never known before. It is easy to stay present as the observer of your mind when you are deeply rooted within your body. No matter what happens on the outside, nothing can shake you anymore. So true. Unless you stay present, and inhabiting your body is always an essential aspect of this, you will continue to be run by your mind. The script in your mind, in your head, that you learned a long time ago, the conditioning of your mind will dictate your thinking and your behavior. You may be free of it, for brief intervals, but rarely for long. This is especially true when something goes wrong or there is some loss or upset. Your conditioned reaction will then be involuntary, automatic, and predictable, fueled by the one basic emotion that underlies the mind-identified state of consciousness: fear. So when such challenges come, as they always do, make it a habit to go within at once and focus as much as you can on the inner energy field of your body. This need not take long, just a few seconds, but you need to do it at the moment that the challenge presents itself. Any delay will allow a conditioned mental, emotional reaction to arise and take you over. When you focus within and feel the inner body, you immediately become still and present, as you are withdrawing consciousness from the mind. If a response is required in that situation, it will come up from this deeper level. Just as the sun is infinitely brighter than a candle flame, there is infinitely more intelligence in being than in your mind. As long as you are in conscious contact with your inner body, you are like a tree that is deeply rooted in the earth, or a building with a deep and solid foundation. The latter analogy is used by Jesus in a generality misunderstood parable of two men who built a house. One man builds it on sand without a foundation, and when a storm and floods come, the house is swept away. The other man digs deep. He reaches the rock. Then he builds his house, which is not swept away by the floods. Before you enter the body, forgive. Question. You all right, Sims? That's okay. The other cat just knocked off something in the bathroom, but it didn't break.